Yeah, I think we can all agree. The month of August, it really hasn't been anything special. Aside from a couple solid movies, there really hasn't been anything released that I feel I could really talk about. However, I want to get another video up for you guys, and with summer winding down and a lot of people either going to, or in my case, going back to college, let's talk about this freaking awesome but lesser known movie that I feel does a great job at summarizing college. And I know a lot of you might be thinking, why aren't you doing a video for American Pie or Animal House? What the hell is this movie? Well, because, spoiler alert for every freshman that's starting college this year, college is not at all what those movies make it out to be. It's not just one big giant party that's just all about, getting drunk and having sex. It's just not. This movie, I feel, is a much greater representation of what college truly is like. Working your ass off to be the best that you study, dealing with adversity left and right, and learning under teachers that you really just want to punch in the face. That is what college actually is. So Whiplash came out just last year. It was one of those movies that didn't get a very wide release, so not that many people were able to see it. However, myself and a couple of my friends, after we heard of the absurdly good reviews that this movie was getting, we decided to go out and track it down. And we all walked out of it in complete agreement that Whiplash is an absolute masterpiece. This was such an incredible movie. It just completely blew my mind when I first saw it, and it really made me mad that this movie did not get the wide release that it absolutely deserved. Because it's just one of those movies that I feel everyone out there should see, especially if you are going into college. And I am so happy that I'm finally talking about it for you guys. So this movie centers around Miles Teller. He's a student drummer at Schaefer, which is like the greatest music school in the country. And this guy just dreams of becoming the next great jazz drummer. Just one of those legends that everyone remembers and everyone's always talking about. And he knows in order to do that, he has to get into J.K. Simmons' class. Because he is just one of those teachers that can get students into the right direction in becoming legends in the music industry. However, it's really tough for Miles Teller to get his attention because he is an alternate drummer in one of the lesser classes at the university. That's like being the backup QB in the NFL. You're not going to get any playing time in that. However, one day, J.K. Simmons does go into Miles Teller's class and he tells him to report to his class the next day at 6 a.m. sharp. So yeah, now that Miles Teller has that officially going for him and now has that, little confidence boost in him, he also decides to go ask out this girl that he likes that works at a movie theater. And what kind of turns into an extremely awkward conversation, she does agree to go out with him. Good job, Miles Teller, for repping us socially awkward guys. But what made this scene just perfect is if as he was walking out of the theater after he asked her out, they started playing like Aloe Black's song, I'm the Man during that. I know, I just think it would have made the scene absolutely perfect. So the next day is his first day in J.K. Simmons' class, and of course he does the one thing that he really shouldn't do and oversleeps. Come on, man, you're in college now. Use an alarm clock. He makes it to the class, only to find out that J.K. Simmons actually had him come 3 hours earlier when absolutely nobody was there. I don't know, I guess that's just the teacher's way of tooling on the new kid, I guess. So now class officially starts, and Miles Teller, of course, he begins as an alternate to the core drummer in the music class. And it's in this scene onward that we see that J.K. Simmons is the most in-your-face, brutal, ruthless asshole ever. His performance in this movie was probably my favorite performance in 2014. He won an Oscar for it, and very rightfully so. But what I loved most about his characters is the one-liners he had. I mean, were they awful to say? Yeah, but the way they were just executed and the way J.K. Simmons said them just made them so good and so memorable for the movie. There's no fucking Mars bar down there. What are you looking at? And I will not have my reputation tarnished by a bunch of limp dick, sour note, flatter on their girlfriend, flexible tempo dipshits. Got it? Get the fuck out of my sight before I demolish you. I mean, it's just stuff he said that you just can't help but laugh at because of how well it is delivered. That's just what awesome acting is right there. And Miles Teller sees in his first day just exactly how hardcore J.K. Simmons is. When he gets his shot on the drums and he's playing out of tune, J.K. Simmons starts just throwing chairs at him, just bitch slapping him, and he's just tearing this kid down verbally. But what I loved with Miles Teller is he only let this motivate him, and it only leads to him, practicing and working harder than he ever has before. I mean, you see him practicing on the drums, and he's sweating, his hands are bleeding. I mean, this guy is just pushing himself to the absolute limit. Because in life and in college, you will run into people, including teachers, that will try to tell you that, you're not cut out for a class, you're not going to make it in your major, and you just don't belong here. And really, they don't necessarily mean that to get you to quit. They do that as a mean to weed out those, who are actually going to push themselves harder and work harder in order to make sure that they do have a place here. You see that with Miles Teller, and in the band's first competition, when the core drummer loses his sheet music, Miles Teller finally gets this on. He plays the song Whiplash that he was practicing for so long. They win the competition, and as a result, he is made the new core drummer. Which is awesome for him, yeah, but the problem is his family just really doesn't care. You see them obviously more interested in college sports or people who are involved in majors that will clearly, absolutely, definitely get them a job somewhere. And what I really liked in this scene is it plays on the fact that people are just going to be all over you for, choosing a career that maybe is lesser known or one that you just have less of a shot at becoming very successful in. Because everyone expects you to just major in something that has options for jobs literally everywhere. And some people just either don't get or don't want to understand that some of the career options or majors that you find in college, as shortlisted or as difficult as they might be for a career, sometimes it's just worth it. So back in his class, Miles Teller now has to deal with learning the very difficult song Caravan, along with dealing with the fact that a new student has joined the class and is basically taken over as this class's core drummer. With this, Miles Teller officially decides to break up with his girlfriend in order to focus primarily on just drumming. And I will say, he definitely could have been a lot nicer and more genuine when he did break up with her. But this movie has just established that, Miles Teller can just be a very blunt person sometimes. Now, after practicing Caravan literally forever, at the next class, J.K. Simmons has Miles Teller and the two other drummers literally practicing Caravan throughout the night for hours until one of them can actually master the tempo. And finally, after all the J.K. Simmons insults and the bleeding and the sweating, Miles Teller officially earns the spot as the core drummer. Unfortunately though, this poor bastard just cannot catch a break. His bus breaks down on the way to the competition. So he rents a car, drives to the competition, forgot his drumsticks, goes back to the rent-a-car place, gets his drumsticks, and then on the way back, he gets hit by a fucking semi. Luckily though, he's able to get out of his completely totaled car and make his way back to the competition. And while I wanted to call bullshit on this scene, when I saw it, I couldn't help but admire the fact that Miles Teller is just really pushing himself this hard to become a great drummer and to prove himself to J.K. Simmons. That's when I know a movie's awesome, when I'm able to get over any and all of its conveniences. So he makes it onto stage, but unfortunately he's just way too injured to actually play the drums, so J.K. Simmons just stops the performance and he tells Miles Teller that he's done. And Miles Teller just snaps. He lunges at J.K. Simmons, he just starts attacking him until eventually he's pulled off the stage. And with that act, Miles Teller is expelled from Schaefer. But we also find out that a former student of J.K. Simmons actually ended up committing suicide because of all the depression and the anxiety that J.K. Simmons brought him when he was in his class. So Miles Teller decides to anonymously testify against J.K. Simmons and he gets fired from Schaefer. Sometime later, Miles Teller eventually goes to a jazz club where he sees J.K. Simmons perform, and the two end up, getting together and just having a little conversation. And here J.K. Simmons explains that while he may certainly be over the top with his teaching methods, he does this only so his students can truly realize their true potential and become great musicians. Because he points out if all he did was just sit there and say, hey, don't worry about it, you did a good job, it just wouldn't motivate them, and it wouldn't give them any reason to try their hardest. And again, this was just a moment that I loved seeing. Because it'll make you look back on a teacher you've had, the ones that you and your friends just shit on and hate and just wish you didn't have to deal with at all. Sometimes the reason they give you the work they do or they push you the way they do is because they see that you can become great in what you do and they want you to succeed. Okay, maybe they don't slap you or throw chairs at your head, but their motives are the same. Then J.K. Simmons invites Miles Teller to come play drums at the JVC Festival concert that J.K. Simmons is conducting. Miles Teller agrees because he knows that if he puts on a great performance here, he can immediately go on to become a professional musician, do this for a living and be right on the track to becoming the next great. But he also knows that if he screws up, that's what he will always be remembered for by these people, and he will have absolutely zero chance at ever becoming a great musician. So no pressure, right? But nonetheless, he does feel that this is his moment. He also decides to give his old girlfriend a call, to apologize to her, and also to see if she'd like to go to this concert to support him. But unfortunately here, he finds out that she has a new boyfriend, and he's obviously visibly crushed by that. That's why you always treat your girl like you're still trying to win her over. That way, you will never lose her. Guys, remember that rule. So getting to the performance itself, here we find out J.K. Simmons does in fact know that Miles Teller testified against him, and so he has a band play a song that Miles Teller has never even heard of in an attempt to just sabotage him. Which leaves you like, oh shit, what's gonna happen? Is this gonna work out? The intensity in this movie just always has you on the edge of your seat, and I love that. And of course, Miles Teller just leaves the stage completely embarrassed, but he decides to come back on the stage and he just immediately starts playing Caravan while J.K. Simmons is talking to the audience. And this moment I just thought was so powerful because it shows that Miles Teller is thinking, no, I will not let this guy get the better of me. I know I'm a great drummer. I know I deserve to be here, and I will not let what just happened define who I am. But what I also loved is when the rest of the band, joins in him in the song, he just immediately looks at J.K. Simmons and he just mouths, "Fuck you." Hell yeah, Miles Teller, stick it to the man. And as the performance is supposed to end, Miles Teller continues to play the drums, and he delivers the most mind-blowing drum solo, I think, in the history of mankind. Swear to you, when I saw this scene for the first time, I was just literally sitting back in my seat like, holy shit, this is insane. The solo just keeps going and going, and J.K. Simmons, we can see, he's completely blown away by it too. As Miles Teller's solo is now winding down, J.K. Simmons finally looks at him. He gives him a nod of approval as the performance ends and as the movie ends. So all in all, Whiplash was just absolutely phenomenal. The acting was terrific. The story was great. The writing was incredible. The intensity that is in this movie just absolutely blows your mind. And I just love the overall story of just seeing this guy who just wants to be the best at what he does while dealing with someone who's just giving him absolute hell along the journey. Whiplash was my favorite movie of 2014, and I only wish people knew more about it when it was released. Like I said, I think the story, whether intentional or not, really does describe exactly what college students go through. Pushing themselves to succeed so they have a great future. Teachers that are just going to push them so hard at what they're learning. And just learning along the way how bad you truly want something for yourself. And I'm sorry, but I will take a movie like that over any movie that just tries to overly emphasize the party life of college any day of the week. So one last thing, as I mentioned towards the beginning, I am going back to college for my senior year. So a lot of you may be wondering, what does this mean necessarily for my YouTube channel? Rest assured, I will still be seeing movies and making videos on a weekly basis. I love movies and I love doing YouTube, and me being at college is not going to stop that. The only difference you'll see is, of course, me in a different setting. So I just want to thank you all so much for a great summer. Thank you all for watching my videos, subscribing to my channel, and also making me realize that this is something that I can be good at and I can be successful with. So in other words, thank you for being my J.K. Simmons. I mean, without the asshole factor and more of an extremely supportive factor towards it. You know what I mean. And as always, don't forget to leave a comment, like, subscribe, and I will see you all next time. Just not here.